Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Social Media Millionaire podcast. This episode's going to be a spicy one, I think.
I would tend to agree.
So, if you don't live under a rock and you've seen anything on the internet, you know that income claims, and I feel like this is really tied into like the MRR people and the just like digital course space as well, because they're one of like the biggest people that are like guilty of
Digital
this.
course, consulting, any info product, honestly, anything online. It doesn't really matter what you do.
And like anyone that's like
E-commerce
business
is really
coachy.
sus.
Yeah.
I think e-commerce is honestly a lot more suspicious
Mm-hmm.
than even a lot of the MRR people because their revenue's bigger, but you never, like, unless you know where they source their products or any of that information, like, you don't know how much they pay for their product and you don't know what they're paying on ads
Yeah,
on top of that. So it's like,
there's so many blanks. Well, and with these MRR people, what they're being taught to do is buy a course that they know nothing about and then pretend like they've made a bunch of money selling the course to sell the course. But it's not just like the MRR people. There's also so many people that are like in the business, coaching, social media space that are very guilty of this too.
well, it's funny because when we were at that conference down in Vegas, I was talking to someone who's really big. If you haven't seen his videos, you've seen one of his clients' videos. And we were talking about income claims and how trivial they've become, because it's like people don't believe you if you don't say you've made money or can prove that you've made money. But at the same time, if you say and walk through how they've made money, like the big numbers, they just don't have like the same effect that they used to as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like really dumb from a marketing perspective just to throw dollar amounts out there.
Well, and people have gotten really like desensitized to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone and their mom has a 6-figure business and a 7-figure business. Like it's really not that impressive anymore.
Well, you even have people out there that like throw out like 8 and 9 figures a lot now too. So it's like no matter what level you're at, like there's just so much information being bombarded with you. It's not like the hook that it used to be.
It's not as like activating. And the thing is like I think that I don't think that talking about money or income should be taboo at all. I think that the people that come at it from that angle of like it should be private, like okay, that doesn't help anybody. This idea of like it should be private is what, in my opinion, has kept people at a certain level because they don't know what's possible. And so I think that there's like positives to the income transparency, but it shouldn't be the only selling point. Like, I'll scroll through people's social media and like every single video is, I made this much money, 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 I made this much money. And it's like, have your clients ever gotten a single result?
Yeah, that tends to be the question.
Do you know how to talk about anything else besides making money? Because if you don't know like what the other results are that you could provide for somebody outside of making money, you don't actually know what you're doing.
And well, there's this really large issue of if you're anywhere in the marketing space, anywhere in the sales space, anywhere in the business consultant space,
Mm-hmm.
business coaching space, anything honestly to do with lead generation, lead flow, website traffic, social media. Everyone wants to know what the ROI is. Uh, and a lot of people again, like you said, they fall to like tying it back to money before
Mm-hmm.
they tie it back to like other tangible results. Like you can say, hey, this got my business X amount of leads, or hey, this grew my email list by X amount, or
Mm-hmm.
a million different ways you could talk to what your buyers actually need
Right.
without just saying, I made a bajillion dollars. You
I
should totally believe
love
me.
I love making content like that. That's like we had 12 applications come in after posting this video
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a very tangible like result that other people can relate to. But the other thing is like when people are saying like, "Oh, I made this much money." is that profit? Is that
Mm-hmm.
total sales? Have you actually collected that money? Is that like how many of those clients contested charges and got their money back? How many of those clients dropped out of the program halfway through? What was the retention rate? Did any of those clients that you made money off of actually see results? Like, give us the details.
Yeah, and on top of all of that, when it comes to income claims, I love your bull crap tax that you like to put on people. And for everyone
Aw,
who
you're so
doesn't know,
gentle.
yeah, well, this is a podcast that will be posted on the internet, so uh,
I posted it on Threads.
well, we'll leave it a bull crap tax for this. Uh, but what it is you take whatever someone says and you just divide it by two. You
Yeah.
take 50% off the top, and you can usually safely assume that's what they've made.
Yeah.
And then,
If somebody says they made 50K in a month, I'm like, oh, okay, so you maybe did 25.
and here's the realistic thing. Here's the realistic thing is if you're wanting to work with someone, and let's say they said they made $1 million. Great. So they actually made 500K. Just for all intents and purposes here. And realistically, if you want to work with them, if you want to learn that they're teaching you, like for example, we teach organic marketing, right?
Right.
And let's be real, what they teach you, you probably can make millions of dollars with, whether it's ads, cold outbound, affiliates, email marketing, whatever it is, you can probably make a lot of money with those tactics and strategies. But the thing is it takes time. And here's the other thing. You might not implement it the way they do, or they might not teach in quite the same way. And, there's some people out there that are teaching stuff that probably shouldn't be teaching stuff just because they're not good at teaching stuff.
That's the thing is like just because you've had a result or made a lot of money, it doesn't mean that you can produce those same results for clients.
And as a someone who wants to work with someone, which we all want to work with these, big influencers. One, I think to a certain degree, depending on who it is and what their brand is, we look up to them. But two, we want their same results, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 50% off the top, and let's say you get a tenth of the result that they get. So, they said they made $1 million, they really make 500K. And if you got a tenth, if you made 50K from working with them,
Would that be worth it to you?
Would you be happy with that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a rule that I would go by.
That's what we follow when it comes to investing, because like people will be like, oh, like we feel like with this strategy you could scale to like X amount of money, and we're like, okay, but if we did a tenth of that, would it still be worth it?
Mm-hmm. And this is like really dumb, and but I kind of look at it like this, because on average, and this hasn't been the case, but on average, with every dollar we've invested in self-development, business, education,
Mm-hmm.
it's been about a 10x return.
Yeah.
And it's really funny though, because some things like books, if you can implement them, you'll have a higher return than a lot of these coaches do. But like the coaches, you get like the specific tactics. A lot of books just cover overarching strategies.
Yeah, principles and tactics are two different things,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that a lot of people miss. And this comes back to like the people making income claims and selling, courses when they don't actually know how to teach, because they're teaching tactics that they've implemented, like the times that they've posted or the hashtag strategy that they use or whatever, right? Those things are
The
tactics,
copywriting, the sales strategy, the DM
not
selling
principles.
scripts. Yeah.
Principles are like psychology,
Mm-hmm.
why people buy, understanding mirror neurons, understanding what loss aversion versus the gain effect, what the impact is there. Those are principles. Now, the ways that you implement those, be it through a TikTok video, a reel, a Instagram story, the way that you phrase it, the platform like tools that you use, those are tactics.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here, well, and arguably some of those, like for example, like ManyChat, Real CTA. I would say that's a strategy, but like the specific tactic, and ideally what you get for if you're working with someone like really good, is they'll help you go through and craft like either the DM flow or say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong with your DM flow, and give you those specific tactics, those little edges that will get people to click on your freebie
And
or interact.
customize it to your business.
And that's like the big thing that you pay for with a coach
Is
but
customization.
like, going back to it, like I guess we deviated a lot there, but
As we do.
as we do. But again, you have to just look at the income claims. Take half the top. Take half off the top. And the other reason why too is a lot of people will say like gross sales revenue. They won't include, bad debt or like whatever churned, like Kendra was saying earlier. And they won't tell you if they are running ads,
Right.
If they're running ads, you can take 30% off the top. And some people, some people have a really good ROAS. Some people get 5, 6, 7, 8 ROAS because, and here's the thing though, and I kind of theorize all ROAS will like go to 1 or negative, perhaps, just because people will have to, and as people have already evolved, like there's this really big content creator out there, not even content creator, really big guy in business right now. He runs lots of ads, but he says, if you sell your back end 2x the price for 2x the time, you double your business. And why is he saying that? Well, if you broke even, if you got a 1x ROAS on your business on the front end, so you broke even by the time they get done with it, you have to resell them on the back end to make any money, to make any profit.
Yeah.
And you've seen that with coaching, it with software sales, it started there, if we're being 100% honest, all these SaaS services, and has evolved. But now it's just trickling into, in my opinion, and what I've seen, every other aspect of business. And these algorithms kind of just naturally, because it's a bidding system for the ad rates.
Yeah.
And as more and more people figure out how to have better and better backends, naturally they're willing to up what they're willing to pay on the front end. Therefore, the price is naturally going to trend up and to the right.
Well, and okay, tell me what you think about this. Don't you think that if you're going to hire a coach and there's somebody who has like a heavy like presence when it comes to like talking about money and talking about income, don't you think that it's like perfectly fine to ask them like if they've like made a post that's like kind of broad and vague, if that's sales revenue or collected cash? And if that's like what the margins are on that. Don't you think that's like an acceptable question to ask if you're going to hire them?
Yeah, if you're going to hire them,
I would just
I
like
think that gets tough. I mean,
feel like if people are going to share their financial numbers, then they've created an open, like they have to be okay with people asking those qualifying questions.
Yeah, I think that's valid for the most part, but I mean, I think that's tough. I think you get into a really murky area there. When it's like if they're going to lie about one number, they're going to lie about another number.
Yes, but it's harder to lie about many numbers and make it all make sense.
That is true. But as a consumer, you have to be really educated. Like, you have to know what questions to ask. Are you going to ask like, oh yeah, like, so what is your guys' like upfront cash collected, right? Percentage, because that's going to give you a good indication. Like if they collect 30% up front and they say they do $100,000 a month, I mean, they're at least doing $30K a month, and they're probably going to collect at least 50% on the back end, even if their churn is really high. But again,
so what are questions that you would ask if somebody is like really heavily marketing based off of like income claims? I think upfront cash collected is a really good question.
I mean, yeah, and like those are more direct though. I would funnel for bullcrap. or filter. And what I mean by that is I'd ask questions like, oh yeah, so like what does your typical client like, what's like the lead flow like they can expect if they, do everything correctly?
Lead flow is a great question because money is easy to gloss over, but like what's the lead flow? Oh, our average client sees 5 leads a week. Okay, well, if you're not getting any leads, right?
Well, and honestly, there's this tool, and I posted about it in our group program, so you guys get a little bit of free value here. Maybe not if I remember the tool name incorrectly, but it should be Buzzlytics, Buzz like a bee, or Buzz Lightyear.
Oh yeah.
And this is another great way where you can just go call utter bullcrap on people. Is you just take that, and this is like if they're doing organic stuff.
Yeah.
But you take that, you throw in their username, and it will tell you how many views, how many profile views. It'll give you how many videos they've posted. It'll give you all this information on their account, and what you can do from there is like, okay, they got X many views. Well, let's say 3%, and this is the tricky part because
you never know what people's conversion rate
you
actually
never know
is.
exactly, but it's somewhere between 3 and 10% of people who go
Typically,
from
yeah.
a view to a profile view. Usually that's closer to 3%. And then what I found is usually it's closer to 5 to 10%. I always, when
With
I'm,
organic
yeah.
content.
Well, with organic content, to go from a profile view to a link, click, and bio. When I'm doing revenue projections, I always set it at 3% because I'm going to hit my numbers no matter what.
Yeah.
And I want my clients to hit their numbers. So I always say, hey, just assume 3%. If you get more, you're happy.
Right.
Right. But just assume 3% there. And then like you can figure out how many link clicks they get. And then like, okay, let's say, X amount of people sign up or opt in or, whatever it is. You can reverse the math on their funnel without even having to talk to them. And I would almost say that's better. If they get real finicky, if you're asking about like, what can I really like expect? What do I get out of the program? A really good salesperson is going to lead with value.
Right.
And tell you what you're going to be able to learn how to do at the end of the program, right?
Right.
Like let's say, if Russell Brunson was doing this. I've been on a Russell Brunson trip lately. But like if I was, trying to sell people into one of his high ticket coaching programs, I would say, oh yeah, you're going to be able to come out of this. You're going to be able to build funnels. They're going to be able to convert really well. You're going to be able to take your traffic that you're getting from organic, and all of your traffic will help you do a webinar as well for your paid traffic. That way your paid traffic isn't, it'll convert just as good as your organic traffic with the webinar.
Right.
And,
There's like clear,
tangible outcomes.
Clear, tangible outcomes beyond just, we're going to make you cajillions of dollars.
I would tentatively get nervous if they throw a specific example of a client making tons of money out.
Over and over and over again. If
Over
they
and
use
over.
that same client over and over. I'm
Yeah.
like, so what about your other clients? Yeah.
But I mean, and at the end of the day, because again, there's varying levels, and I don't like, as a consumer myself, I don't mean to gaslight consumers in this, but there's different levels and rates at which we learn. We've had clients in the program and feel like our program, I'm not talking about anyone else's.
Yeah.
And kind of feel like disappointed because they didn't quite get everything. Like they didn't see the success initially that they wanted to, but then we talked to them 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 months later,
and they're like, you
and
guys
it's like,
are the best. This
finally
changed my
clicked.
life. It clicked. Yeah, and that's the thing, is like people go at different paces.
And that's the other thing with like time. Time is the one variable in here when you combine that with people's learning abilities.
Well, and people's just like life experiences. Like some people will come into the program never having posted a video, but guess what? Their previous career, they were doing like corporate trainings. And so they're really good at speaking to people and educating and breaking things down in like an understandable way.
So for them to make organic content that performs well is extremely easy.
It's really easy. Whereas like somebody else who's never posted before, they're
Who's
really
worked
shy.
as an engineer in a corner, has never, really needed to articulate his,
right.
problems to a large audience.
And that's the thing, is like it's not always, obviously your program, you want to have it built in a way where you're able to replicate success for as many people as possible at any level with any skill set and any background. However, there are variables that you can't control, just like people's life experience. And so I think it's important to kind of highlight what those things are. And like I've been really trying to, even like when I'll get a message from like a past client, I highlight it and I talk about that. I'm like, this person left the program like 4 or 5 months ago and is now messaging me with XYZ result. And so it's like, I try to highlight that process and what that looks like. But what I found is that like, well, and I'll tell you once we're done recording who I'm talking about, but there's a coach who I follow and really like and have a great relationship with. But recently I've been noticing that the client results that are shared are coming from like 2 of their clients, like over and over and over and over and over again. And so it's like, and like I really respect this person and like think they're really great. I just, like I said, I've just kind of picked up on it, and I don't know if other people are starting to notice or what, but it's like it's glaringly obvious at this point that like all of the testimonials and screenshots and results that are being posted are coming from like 2 clients within their program. So I'm like, okay, that's another thing that I look at beyond like income claims, is like I'm looking for clues, because people are not, intelligent at like faking all of this stuff. Like they just like they're not even gonna think about it. And so like I'm looking when I'm seeing screenshots, am I seeing like different like profile pictures? Like is it the same profile picture over and over from that Slack screenshot, or is it a variety of different people? Are those
Yeah.
screenshots coming from like a variety of places? Like they've got DMs where they're like actually having conversations with clients. People are responding to their stories. They're also like Slack or like whatever their program is in. And then like, are they all from group messages? Are they all from one-on-one? And like, I even look at things like the dates and like the times and stuff on there because people will post screenshots that are from, and like I will do this too. I will share screenshots that are from past clients that we had a year, 2 years ago because the timeline doesn't invalidate their success. However,
You
are
want there to
they
be consistent
right?
and recent successes.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like, okay,
Exactly.
has this person just checked out of their business and like just looking for cash grab, or what's the deal here?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm like, are these recent results? And like you said, are they
Do what
consistent?
they teach not work anymore? Has like the market? Because let's be real, we live in a time where marketing constantly changes.
Yeah.
What we were teaching
The
a year ago in our
algorithms
programs
change
is,
every
is
day.
different than what we change currently now. And
Yeah.
what we advise, it constantly
Yeah, when I was
constantly
teaching
evolves.
when I was teaching 3 years ago, like I would not give a lot of the same advice, and it's not because like it was correct at the time, but things have changed, consumers have changed, and even just like the data and understanding, and like you guys know I'm like really heavy on the psychology side, like the testing and the research that's been done with consumers is so much different and has changed so much even just in the past year.
And the one thing that I will also say, but like the level of content creator, it used to be down here. There used to be some YouTubers that were up here, but the average content creator was down here 2-3 years ago, and each year the average content creator just gets a little
higher
bit
and
better.
higher and higher.
You know, video editing gets easier on different platforms. There's more YouTube videos. There's more tutorials. Cameras get cheaper.
Which is
AI
fantastic
gets better, you
because
know?
that creates more accessibility for people to come in and start businesses.
Well,
But
and
it
as
also,
someone starting a business,
yeah,
you have more opportunity than ever before. But you just have to realize
but
that
it
like,
also makes it easier for the scammers.
it makes it easier for the scammers, and it makes content in general just more competitive,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and the other thing I've seen is like where people, they'll say like, oh, I'm a 7-figure business owner. Okay, you made $1 million over the last 17 years.
It's a
I'm
millionaire.
impressed.
It's a millionaire by one standard, right? You know, make $1 million over a long period of time.
But like you should specify that in your content.
Probably. Well, and when most people refer to millionaire, it's like they have $1 million invested in either their home, stocks, bonds.
Okay, you say
whatever.
most people. When people who actually know what they're talking about refer to millionaire.
When most people think of the term millionaire, right? It's like they have $1 million accessible in some way in assets, right?
These business coaches are out here being like, I went from 0 to a millionaire in a year. You're not a millionaire. Just because your business made $1 million, that doesn't make you a millionaire.
Well, and typically speaking, it makes you a 7-figure business owner, but I wouldn't even call that a millionaire.
It makes you a 7-figure founder. It does not make you a millionaire.
Well, and just to be clear, there's three types. There's 3 types of millionaire, and like what that term is used. You make the first one we talked about was $1 million over a long period of time. Most people, that's like their 20, 30, 40 year career.
Everyone does that over.
Eventually, you're going to make $1 million, especially with inflation. Yeah. Number 2, and I'm gonna go in the most to least common order on this one.
Yeah.
But number 2 is the one I said where you have like $1 million in assets here, there, and everywhere, right? Not necessarily cash in a bank, liquid, but you have $1 million in assets. That's a millionaire.
Yep.
Most people, if you're alive today and you're young, you're probably going to hit that. At least you should.
By the time you retire, you'll hit $1 million.
Put $500 away. You have a couple million when you retire. You probably need if you're 20 now, you probably need $5 million to retire.
That's like the bare minimum.
Probably. Just going to throw that out there. People will hate me for it. And then number 3 is, and this is the least common one, remember, is you made $1 million in a year. And when I say make $1 million, is like personal income, typically speaking.
Yes.
Some people will pull
your business doing $1 million is not the same as you making $1 million.
Yeah, if you have to give 40% of it to Zuckerberg, you didn't make $1 million. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. $1 million in sales is not the same as $1 million in profit.
Yeah.
And $1 million in sales is not the same as cash collected.
I'll give it to you. Like, if you can have your like gross revenue, so like whatever pre-tax, but you have all your expenses paid, if you can clear that, I'd say you made it. I'm not going to count taxes against you, because to be a millionaire you'd have to make like 1.6 in a year now to hit $1 million
Pre-tax.
retained post-tax. But I'll give it to you if you can hit it pre-tax. Because
yeah, and so I feel like that's another problematic thing. I just think that all of this could be solved by people just being
publish your tax returns.
Publish your tax returns. No, but I think that like it's funny to me because people will share income claims, and then when people ask questions about it, they're like, that's personal. You made it public. It public. And again, like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or pat myself on the back, but like, I do feel like I try really hard to say like, this was sales, X in sales, or X in cash, or in profit, or like year to date or month to date, or like whatever it is. And also try to provide context. And the thing is sometimes I forget that also like we don't run ads. And so people like don't also realize that like we're not spending money on ads.
Yeah, it's funny because people we tell people when we
it's
go
like,
when we're hiring people ask, oh, how much are you like running ads? And we're like $0, and they look at us like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you like? What? Like, I mean,
we're one of the very few businesses out there that are making the amount that we are with no ads.
Well, and I think part of it too is people will get to somewhere between 500K and $1 million if they did organic, and they'll start running ads.
Yeah.
Retargeting.
Yeah.
They'll do what Gary Vee says. They'll base it on a piece of content that did really well. They'll retarget that piece of content that went viral, and they'll have a CTA, and it'll do really well.
But you are kissing goodbye to at least 30%.
With that though, I would disagree actually with that one, because it's based off of, if you're doing it correctly, if you're basing it off of your organic content, your ROAS will be a lot higher because you're just retargeting. You're not, it's not like people don't know who you are, right? You're already doing it to people who watch your organic content.
So when you
with
said
a CTA.
30%, you meant just like running like outreach ads.
Yeah, like what the majority of people do is you'll typically have 30% on ad spend.
Yeah.
Which is roughly a 3x ROAS, which is pretty, like you can do that. Like you can't have a bad ad to do that, but like a lot of people, and like if you watch Alex Hormozy or Grant Cardone or all of these people who act like they invented math, they'll be like, you take $1 to acquire your customer, $1 to fulfill your customer, and if you can get $1 in profit, that then goes and buys your next customer, which is why everyone goes for a 3x ROAS. If you can get 3x ROAS, you have theoretically achieved infinite scaling, because you can just spend, that's your ad budget every month, right? And that's why everyone is like, run ads, because you leverage the capital, right?
But what happens though, more often than not, is that there's people like the one coach that we know who spends 100K to make 100K. And that's not uncommon.
I think, there are circumstances where I would do that. And it depends on the amount of leads. If I was selling, like, if I did like a $7 like opt-in,
you would spend
like
$100 in ads to make, or $100,000 in ads to only like break even.
Yeah, because if I was doing a $7 product, imagine how many freaking leads I would have. I'm going to email market the living heck out of those people. And because they already bought from me, and they already got value from me.
Yeah, but you're using your brain. You and I both know that that's not the funnel setup that they have.
Some people don't do that. The really smart people who go big with ads, that's what they do.
You can't use common sense, I fear. That's not allowed here.
Well, common sense, again, you have to ask the bullcrap questions, right? And a lot of people will spend, there's people we know that spend 100K on ads just to break even.
Yeah.
And
woof.
You have to have I think if you're going to spend money on ads, no matter what, you have to have a solid back end worked out. I think you shouldn't touch ads as your average business owner until you hit 500K from organic revenue. The reason for that being is at 500K in revenue, for most businesses, you're going to have enough traffic where you can actually do retargeting campaigns that will give you greater than a 3x ROAS. If you can hit a 5x ROAS...
And you've been able to test and determine what is going to activate and convert without paying to test it.
And here's the crazy thing is sometimes, and I've talked to some people that get insane ROAS is above 10x from certain, and here's the big asterisk I'm going to put on this conversation. They get it from running retargeting campaigns on people who've already watched their organic content, but the thing is they don't have a really large ad budget. Right. So it's almost like hyper targeted to their ideal clients. And they've accepted that, like, okay, I'm not going to spend $1 million and make $10 million in a month. I'm going to spend like 10 to 50K, but I'm going to make $500,000 to $1 million a month. And they're happy with that on the ROAS because they get a phenomenal ROAS.
But that's one, that's not the norm. And two, there's not very many ad agencies that you can go hire that will give you that.
Well, most of those guys do it in-house.
I was just going to say that comes from hiring and training an in-house team that is so highly specialized and so dialed into your offers, your team, your audience. You don't hire an ad agency and get that result. That doesn't happen.
I think it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And the big issue with that is like ad agencies, it's just like Apple and Google. They see how much you're spending on ads,
but and
the retainer's going to click up as they make you more and more money.
Well, and that's the thing is I tell people, I'm like, if you want to do organic content, don't promote content on TikTok or Instagram. You've just told the platform that, hey, guess what? I will pay you for views.
I think that is dangerous.
So don't bother showing my stuff to anyone organically. I don't understand why people do that. But all of that to say, and my other thing that I want to say with income claims is that it's problematic enough when it comes to organic content, but the people whose marketing revolves around income claims, but they are running ads. Yeah. No one is disclosing the amount that they're running on ads. No one's disclosing what that is. And they're not disclosing the difference between, like Soren said, cash like collected versus sales. And like, again, what does the retention look like? What's their churn look like? Did they make $100,000 in sales, but they ended up refunding 90% of their customers because they got in and realized that the product was crap? Like, what are the other numbers? Those are important to share if you are going to.
Well, and you have to be you have to research what you need to ask. You need to understand like what your customer acquisition cost is. Or your CAC. You need to understand what your ROAS is or your return on ad spend. And there's all of these different factors.
Again, I think that those are viable questions like to ask somebody. If somebody is doing this very like money-based marketing, asking them what their customer acquisition cost is, asking them how much they're spending on ads. Those are viable questions because if that is going to be the same framework or strategy that they're teaching you, you deserve to have that insight and information.
The other thing I have to talk about right now, because it's just like burning a hole in my chest, I'm about ready to explode, is case studies. If we're talking about unethical income claims, unethical marketing, all of that crap, the case studies, and when people say case studies, it's not actual effing case study.
It just sends me in orbit.
It's a testimonial.
It's a testimonial.
That they rizzed out of their best client.
Yeah.
Like...
They're like, look at this client case study. Proceeds to like tell a watered down version of the truth and then share a video testimonial that they got from the client.
It's not to discredit value from those testimonials, but that's what they are. It is a
watered down.
It's a review. It's a client testimonial. It's a review.
Also, if you are offering people gift cards or anything in exchange for leaving you a review or a Google review or a testimonial,
you're going to get a call from the FTC.
Yeah, and if I catch you, I'll report you.
Well,
awful. It's just like a whole other thing.
I didn't know I was doing a podcast episode of a headhunter.
Bite me.
Anyway, I'm gonna go delete all of my reviews. Just kidding.
Great. Thanks so much for that.
You're welcome.
Anyway, now that we've talked about every single way that income-based marketing is problematic and all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, let's talk about why you should do it. If you have an audience that is primarily made up of driver and analytical buyers, they will eat that up because they need to know the real numbers. They want the stats, they want the data, they want the analytics, they want the ROI. That type of thing is actually going to be very activating for them, but it has to be done ethically and with integrity. Because again, there's so many people that are doing it the wrong way. But speaking to and hitting home to those very tangible results, I always say money is the only universal language in the world. Everyone understands.
Everyone knows what a dollar is.
Yes, everyone knows what a dollar is. Everyone understands more or less the idea of $100,000 or $500,000 or $1,000,000. And there are so many different subliminal messages that come attached to each of these different dollar amounts that are nearly impossible to replicate that same psychological reaction with anything else, with any other result, right? Because this is something that people understand. It's something that people think about constantly. It's something that everyone is motivated towards. And regardless of why you want money, everyone wants money, whether it buys you freedom or security or travel or investments or physical items. Every single person is motivated by money and understands more or less, can conceptualize in some way what these different dollar amounts would do for them. And again, there's centuries, generations of subliminal messaging and connotation that is attached to monetary value. And that's not something that can be unlearned in a year or 5 or 10. And it's not something that can be deconstructed unless you were to deconstruct it societally as a whole. So for you to create and speak to results that people are going to understand and be able to conceptualize as well as money, there's almost nothing else that can do that in the same way. So speaking to those driver and those analytical buyers, it's very, very impactful because they want those numbers. They want to see you as an authority. They are very, very ego-driven. And we know that money is just one of those things that pumps someone's ego, okay? So it's a very powerful marketing tool specifically for those types of buyers. And in the online space, in the marketing space, social media, business, that is something, those types of buyers are very prevalent because of the way that we societally as a whole perceive success. It's just the reality of the situation. You can fight me on it if you don't like it, but I don't really care. Those are the facts. So there's a few things that I will say that you can do to ethically share income claims because, I mean, we do this. And I don't think that it's something that you should completely cut out of your marketing, but I do think that there's a time and place and that there also has to be additional substance. If all you talk about is money and there's no other value that people can get besides hopefully making the same amount that you do, you're not very good at marketing.
It's kind of like when a prospect DMs you, like, what's the price?
Yeah.
And if you respond with price, then it's just a race to the bottom of, like, who does it for the cheapest.
Yeah.
Rather than leading with value and then disclosing the price. It's kind of like the same concept.
No, that's 100% it. It's a race to the bottom. Mm-hmm. Except it's a race to the top. Who can say the biggest numbers? Who can make the biggest, most outlandish income claims?
And that's when you get into the unethical crap.
Yeah. If you don't have any value to support that and any other substance for people to follow you or want to work with you for, that's a problem.
And for analytical buyers, getting like a number out there, it can help.
Yeah.
But again, the best thing that will bring you the most leads. And I was literally on a client call today.
Tangible results.
And how do you do that? Typically some sort of freebie lead magnet training thing that gives them something that they can apply and get a result from. And you can teach an overarching strategy. Like we talked about on this call, like, how do you do a ManyChat CTA that's actually going to build your email list?
It brings me so much joy when I get messages that are like, your content or like your TikTok or your YouTube, whatever it is, got me the like X result. Mm-hmm. Like, don't get me wrong, I love client results. Like, that's so exciting to me. But when people are able to see like massive results for our free content, I'm like, these other gurus have nothing on me. Because
Well, that's when like
they can't produce even the same results with their paid programs that I can produce with my free content.
and like that should honestly like be the goal. And
Yep.
honestly, and we've talked about this before in the past too. A lot of people like gatekeep information. Uh,
Information is not valuable anymore.
you can ask
Implementation.
ChatGPT everything. So like that's what you're
Implementation
paying
holds
for
value.
when you're hiring an agency, when you're hiring a coach, a consultant, like
And customization, I would say.
customizations.
Implementation and customization.
But I mean, I would lump customization under implementation. But either way,
Well, plenty of people will help you implement a cookie cutter ass framework that is not actually going to do anything for you.
that is true.
So, coming back to my tangible tips, I would say first and foremost, be honest about the timeline. If you're going to say you did 7 figures, great. That's fantastic. You did 7 figures in 3 years. Say that. There are people that would kill to make 7 figures in 3 years, right? Be honest about the results. You're going to attract people that are at the correct level. You're going to have clients that stick with you, that actually learn from you, that actually see results if you are honest about what that timeline looks like.
Speaking of timelines and determining if people are legit or not,
What?
the greatest test of time is time itself. I mean, not
Thanks for that.
not to be too ironic, but no, like legit. If they just popped out or have only been,
If they
and,
pop
like,
up out of nowhere and they're like, I made $1 bajillion last month, it's like, okay, so you scammed people and people haven't found out about it yet.
well, there's no longevity into like what they teach or do or say.
Yeah.
And
there's
like
no tested
we've been going at
results.
this for like 3 years now. Your social media experience goes back further.
Well, yeah, we've been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years.
My sales experience and generally just trying to start businesses goes back to like when I was 16.
Yeah. I've been doing like social media marketing for, let's see, if we've been doing this
A
for
long time.
like 8 years now.
Yeah. And so and like if you can like, and again, we talked about Russell Brunson earlier, but like how long has he been in the industry? 20 years?
Yeah.
You're probably going to learn something if you
Yeah.
bought one of his courses or whatever.
Well, and I like to pat myself on the back too, because what, like, with that time that I spent doing social media management and working for other people, it never even occurred to me to like build a personal brand. But then taking those years of information and knowledge, and then like the second I actually decided to try, it blew up almost immediately. And so it's like, oh no, this wasn't a fluke. This was years of experience. And it was like the final test of like, how good am I at this? Because I was able to take those things that I knew and thought I knew and had been doing for clients. And the second that I implemented it for myself, it exploded.
Well, and the funniest thing is, was you like probably took you 4 to 6 months to like get a substantial following first on Instagram, and then you got one on TikTok. Learning video was like harder, but like figuring out like the offer probably took longer for us.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's like honestly like where Coach like helped a ton, was once we figured out what we wanted to do, like how to actually monetize a following.
That's the thing, is like I understand it's really sexy to hire a coach that claims they're going to make you a lot of money, but
Sometimes it's best to hire a coach that's going to make you a little bit of money, but has done that right before you've done it.
Yeah, and I think that hiring people based off of just like sales and marketing like is great, and like obviously there's plenty of people that need that. I mean, all of our clients need that. If you don't have marketing and sales, you don't have a business. However, if your fulfillment can't keep up with your marketing and sales, you are not going to have longevity.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the best investment is not those sexy investments. It's the foundations and the structure. Which sort of kind of brings me to my next thing, which is sharing behind the scenes, and communicating what the journey has been. If you are going to share monetary wins and results, people need to, and when I say behind the scenes, I don't mean one Instagram story photo of you typing on your computer. I mean showing, you working through, talking through different things that you're building, sharing, oh, I just got off this call with this client and this was a conversation that we had. Sharing those screenshots, sharing things that aren't just like scripted testimonials, but are actually, in the moment things of you working with clients. I think that's really, really important. And to kind of wrap things up here, I want to share with you guys what I am coining my 6 R's framework that will help you to ethically and effectively share those monetary wins and income-based marketing in a way that, 1, isn't icky and gross, 2, isn't going to make you look like a scammer, and 3, is actually going to provide value and conversion within your audience. So, number 1 is result. Start, of course, with the result that you want to share. So if that's, I made $100,000 in a month, I made $500,000 during my Black Friday launch, great. Share what that result is. Scream it from the rooftops. No one's telling you not to do that. Number 2 is rewind. So where did you start working towards this goal? Because it wasn't just, okay, you made $100K in a month. You didn't start the first day of the month making $100K, right? Mm-hmm. What are the things that you had to go through to work towards that goal? Which brings me to number 3. What were the things you had to learn or overcome? And so what is really impactful here is for you not to just share the timeline and the result, but also, okay, these are the things that I struggled with. These are the things that were hard for me. These are the things that took me time to learn. These are the things that I wish I had known, right? Those roadblocks, because normalizing those, there are going to be a lot of people in your audience that are well on their way to reaching that, let's just say 100K month. Mm-hmm. But they're struggling with some of those roadblocks that you likely went through. And so you are, 1, not only helping to validate their experience, but you're also doing them such a disservice if you don't help them to understand that those are normal things along the path. And if they are dealing with those struggles, that means that they are on the right path, right? A struggle and a roadblock is a good thing because it means that you are on that road. You are on the right path. And so it's a disservice not to validate those things because often, people are searching, they're watching content on social media, and if they're not validated by you, it's so much easier for them to get swindled by the next person on their For You page that's selling that income result that they want, but doesn't actually know how to get there, right? So the roadblocks is a major, major key. Number 4 is receipts. So kind of halfway through, and this is just a good, storytelling framework in general, halfway through, remind people what the outcome was. And if you have any type of receipts or social proof, this is the time. This doesn't necessarily have to be a screenshot of your Stripe account, right? There's so many other ways to show social proof, even in relation to income. But that kind of, pause and check in where it's like, okay, here's what we went through. Reminder, we did hit this end result and this is what this looks like. Next is recalibrate. So what were the shifts that you had to make to see this result? So after you overcame those roadblocks, or how did you overcome those roadblocks? What are the shifts that you had to make and potentially are still making to make this goal repeatable? Okay. And then finally is replicate. What lessons can your audience take away to replicate these results? And so sharing those different elements of the journey, I think because I know a lot of people, like, they want to share these kind of income or like monetary wins, but they're afraid to because they don't want it to be done unethically, but they don't necessarily know what they're doing. If you follow just that simple framework, you'll be able to, 1, give people transparency and insight into what the journey actually looks like and the struggles that they're likely going to have. And then you can give them some insights and actionable takeaways around the things that you learned, and shifts that they could make right away to get those results. Obviously, you can shift that same storytelling framework and use this for any result that you want to share with your audience. But I think that's a really, really great way to ensure that if you are checking all of those boxes, then you are going to be sharing your monetary wins in an ethical way that's going to appeal to those driver and analytical buyers. You're going to be validating the experience of your audience and helping them to feel really seen and heard by you, which is an important factor when it comes to sales psychology and conversion. And then you are building that authority for yourself beyond just showing the result. You're showing that you have the power and the experience to replicate that for your audience, because you've already been able to show some of those key takeaways that they need to replicate. And if you can just simply then sell the implementation of replicating those results, you've already given them the information, which allows you to really lead with integrity when it comes to sharing these results and sharing those monetary wins. So I would highly recommend take notes, maybe jot down that framework, and just maybe even just use it as a checklist next time you go to share your monetary wins, because I know there's a lot of people that maybe share wins with less transparency, but they're not meaning to do that. They're just doing that. So if that's something that's important to you, which I feel like, if you care about your business and your customers, then it likely is, save that as a little checklist to go back to when you are going to share those types of wins.
If you like the podcast, please, if you're not already, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at soren.laney and kenda.laney on most platforms. If it doesn't come up, add a space.
Yeah.
And as always,
Laney
share it with
Media
a friend.
on TikTok. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, the audience too. If you want to have a conversation about this, my DMs are always open. I love chatting with you guys. So never hesitate to shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm always happy to chat.
And not to be those podcasters, but reviews do help us in the podcasting algorithms.
Yeah.
So if you want to leave us 1 star, if you want to leave us 5 stars,
well, maybe don't leave 1 star. Maybe just put that
if you're gonna leave 1 star, give us a good reason. Give us something that we can actually do to improve.
Just put that in your journal. We don't want to know. Give us a 5-star review.
We prefer the 5 stars. We I think have mostly 5 stars as of right now, anyways.
Oh, but don't say that. Someone's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna ruin it on purpose." The internet's full of trolls, but not you guys. I'm sure you guys are lovely. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next episode.